When I started making this series, I knew there was something that had to happen eventually. While I truly do admire the people that make Smash Bros., there have been a few characters that haven't been as stellar as the others. And that's not their fault. Some are just held back by being the first to join the series, while others are cursed with being rushed additions. They don't want to change the characters that people love to play as. I respect that. I just don't agree with it. And out of all those missed opportunities, there is one character, over all others, who embodies wasted potential. One character that has fallen so far below what they could be. But we already did Samus, so I suppose we'll talk about Ganondorf instead. This episode is going to be a little different than the other veterans I've talked about. For those two fighters, I want to change how they're implemented in Smash Bros. Because I don't feel like what they have now is a good interpretation of who they are. Samus has the most outdated design on the roster. It was fine 20 years ago, but nowadays it's just a pale shadow of what she could be. Peach and Daisy's moveset is this weird amalgamation of both characters' traits that, when combined, does an okay job, but could be so much better if they were split apart. But then we have Ganondorf. And as much as his lackluster moveset annoys me, I do have to admit that he's not like this. It's the simplest interpretation he could have, but at his core, Ganondorf represents power, and Smash Bros. Does an excellent job at making him feel powerful. This puts me in a situation that I haven't been in before, because this is the first veteran I've talked about where there's something that I really want to preserve. No matter where this concept takes us, it is so important that Ganondorf still embodies power. This guy needs to inspire fear in your heart with every move that he throws out, using risky, disrespectful attacks that will instantly destroy you if they hit. And if he's in danger of failing, he'd rather die taking you down than risk letting you win. But past those aspects, everything else is getting scrapped. Ganondorf has no business having any kind of connection to Captain Falcon. He's the main villain from one of the most important video game franchises on the planet. Other fighters should be copying him, not the other way around. We're pulling everything we can from this guy's history. I'm talking magic, weapons, summons, and revamped unique animations that ooze the powerful arrogance that this character should have. But that's not enough. I want to take this a step further. I want Ganondorf to encapsulate not just himself, but his incarnations as a whole. Because as popular as this character is, and as much as he's referenced throughout the series, he's only appeared as Ganondorf in 3 Zelda games, with one more on the way. The true villain of this series, the monster that Ganondorf inevitably turns into, is Ganon, and I think Smash needs to do both justice. Now that said, we will stick with Ganondorf for this. He may not have the most recurring appearances, but he has the most important ones. And if we're doing that, the first step to truly differentiate him has gotta be putting a weapon in his hands. And I'm not talking this corner-cutting take some moves from Ike and Cloud, no. We are going all out for the King of Evil. So obviously we need his sword, right? Despite how much of a meme it became in the Smash community, Ganondorf has had a sword in more Smash Bros. Games than he has in Zelda games, made even more ridiculous by the fact that it's never been this one. This is from a GameCube tech demo that never resulted in anything. This sword may very well be the least important thing about Ganondorf's history. So no, we're definitely not going with this sword. And the rest of his swords only have a single appearance, so I'm skipping them as well. If we're gonna give Ganondorf a weapon, not always associated with Ganondorf, though it seems that will change soon, this is the weapon that truly captures this character's history. And past being the best choice in that way, the Trident brings unique potential in of itself. We have 73 variously unique fighters on this roster, and yet not one of them has a proper polearm. Well, I don't know, maybe DDD, that's a very big hammer, but the point still stands. There is so much untapped potential there. So many unique fighting styles that are begging to be animated in Smash Bros. And such an important figure like Ganondorf gives the perfect excuse to start. The Trident specifically is the perfect weapon for Ganondorf. Ironically, because Tridents are not meant to be weapons. First and foremost, these things are fishing tools. They are designed to be stabbed into something and then get stuck in that something. Now, getting stuck is the last thing you want a weapon to do. If you're in a situation that you need to stab things, you probably want to hold on to the thing you're stabbing with. And with a trident, you're getting it stuck in 3 separate places, all while distributing the force onto 3 separate points. So, not only is your weapon stuck, the thing it's stuck in might still be able to stick you back. It's why you only ever hear about these things being used in real life by gladiators. Unless you're putting on a show, it doesn't really make sense to use them over, say, a spear. It's just a bad idea. But that right there is why this is so perfect. Because Ganondorf doesn't care. Where mortals would struggle to use this thing as a weapon, Ganondorf does it as a self-imposed challenge. Something that he started to break up the monotony between conquests.
Yeah, so I destroyed that kingdom with a sword and it was too easy. Let's use a trident this time and see if it's more fun.
Until otherwise convinced, I'm going to claim that that is the canon reason for this choice of weapon. So why am I focusing so hard on how a trident functions? What's the point of this tangent? Well, because I think it would be a cool way to show off Ganondorf's power if we tied how a trident works directly into his playstyle. Ganondorf is so strong that this trident is going straight through whatever it hits. In other words, impalement. One of the quickest and most visceral ways of showing off power. Case in point, basically, certain moves that Ganondorf has will become multi-hit moves if they make contact. For example, his jab combo. The first attack is a downward swipe with the trident, the second a forward stab, and if that stab connects, the target will be impaled, and Ganondorf will automatically transition into the third hit, where he'll wind back and punch them off his weapon. I know that sounds weird, but it wouldn't be much different than Ganondorf's current flame choke. It's just a split second where a small animation plays, and both players get to really soak in the power of Ganondorf, as his opponents helplessly struggle against his grasp. Except now they're impaled too. This impalement gimmick would appear in quite a few moves. A hefty forward smash stab followed by a Spartan kick, a kamikaze down air where that initial dive will impale and drag people down to be slammed into the ground, or just drag them to the blast zone, keeping the spirit of the Ganonside alive. And how about the grab? Give Ganondorf an extended reach where he uses the trident for its intended purpose, to hook something and bring it back to him. But I don't want every move to be like this. Ganondorf is both a warrior and a warlock, and you gotta show both of those traits or otherwise you're not doing the character justice. But you also want a character's design to flow, to be visually distinct. You don't see Mewtwo using Solar Beam or Fire Blast. Sure, it's something the Pokemon can do, but that doesn't gel visually or thematically with the rest of his moveset. He's all about shadowy attacks, telekinesis, and using the lamest possible Pokemon moves that he could have. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't feature everything that Ganondorf has. Far from it. We just need some common ground is all. So how about we use Ganondorf's trident as a conduit for his magic? Even when not directly attacking with the weapon, he'd still be using it to fire off spells or pulling his magic from it. Likewise, even when not casting spells, like with the moves we just listed, his attacks would still have this glowy, magical aura around them, to better fit this visual distinction. Some easy examples could be a down smash where he stabs his trident into the ground Gandalf style, creating a shockwave of energy, or just do the same thing with the trident flipped over for the up smash. Plant the hilt into the ground and send an explosion of magic upwards. The rest of his moves would follow that same theme, using the trident to send waves and explosions of magic in various directions, or just whacking and stabbing people with the trident itself. Plenty of ways to do that, there just needs to be a good mix of both. And while we're here, let's change this effect. Ganondorf has never really used purple all that much. He's always been more of a red kind of guy. It's the symbol of power in the Zelda series, Din, all that kind of stuff. So let's change this effect to match the style of the Calamity. So where does that leave our initial goals? Ganondorf is definitely still strong. We've preserved the fun of a few of his current moves, though not all of them yet, and the blend of Trident and magic gives him the unique moveset he deserves. But I don't feel like there's enough references to what this character is famous for. This is where the specials come into play, and the first 3 are rather obvious. First off, let's just get this out of the way. The side special has gotta be the Dead Man's Volley. It boggles my mind that this isn't in the game already. This is a staple of the Zelda series, a staple of video games in general for that matter. Of course it's gotta be in Smash Brothers. It functions the way you'd expect it to. You charge up an energy sphere and throw it forward, your opponents can hit it back, and it gains speed and power with every time you strike it. You all know how it works. This thing is a classic. As is the neutral special, the Fire Bats. This would be a channelable move. The longer you use it, the more bats you summon. They'll rotate around you for a set duration, then charge after your closest opponent. Which, yes, sounds scary, but they only home in on where you are, not where you will be. It's a pretty typical boss attack. Deals hefty damage if it hits, but with a very predictable pattern that's avoided by simply moving. Should probably also have very little knockback, or maybe no knockback at all, just to prevent unfair gimps. And of course, the up special is the Trident Throw. Another works as expected move. Ganondorf throws his trident and then does that cool phase-out teleport to where it ends up. It's a very good recovery. You can manually guide the trident wherever you want to, though it is a bit slow to turn, but it's also extremely predictable. There's a massive spinning weapon telling people exactly where Ganondorf is going to end up, making it, again, very easy to punish. Now for the down special, we've got something a little different. We're taking a few liberties here. This is our answer to the Warlock Punch, a disrespectful game-ending move that will probably get you killed if you whiff. Ganondorf will start gathering power as the Calamity swirls around him. After a set amount of time, about as much as a Warlock Punch animation, the Calamity will coalesce into the shadowy form of Pig Ganon. This shade will then attack once in whatever direction you choose, dealing colossal damage and knockback. It's not a direct reference to anything, unless you count Hyrule Warriors, in which case it's just this. But it would be a fantastic way to involve the Ganon side of Ganondorf directly in his moveset. And for a bit of extra fun, make it turn into different forms of Ganon depending on which direction it attacks. That would be so cool. Of course, such a devastating move needs to have drawbacks, which this has plenty of. A ridiculous wind-up animation and end lag, easily dodged or shielded, though the latter is dangerous to do. But with the size of this thing, that doesn't feel enough. And the Calamity never struck me as a healthy substance, he doesn't seem to be taking it well here. So let's have this move damage Ganondorf when used. And you know what? That still isn't enough. So this damage becomes fatal at high percents. Use this when Ganondorf is already very hurt, and his rage will consume him. He'll lose himself entirely to his power. He'll take this form of the Calamity, and rocket forward in whatever direction you choose, passing through players, hazards, and the stage itself. He'll almost certainly kill whoever he hits, but regardless, he won't stop until he hits the blast zone and dies. There's that last piece of the puzzle. A final, all-in disrespectful attack. We've preserved most of the fun aspects of Ganondorf's old playstyle, added in a few more, all while expanding and exploiting the unique potential that Ganondorf brings to the table. But what about the final smash? Ganon's in the base moveset now. What would it be? Well, what's always been Ganondorf's ultimate goal? If Ridley gets to finish off Samus and K. Rool blows up DK Island, it's only fair that Ganondorf gets to finally have all three pieces of the Triforce. There's a lot of forms that could take. Feel free to use your imagination. But for my own concept, I'd take inspiration from the intro of Wind Waker, a Giga Bowser-like attack using this horrifying design of Ganon. That would be awesome. And that will wrap up this concept. The Dark Lord of Hyrule can finally show off his true potential. Thank you so much for joining me today. This was a ton of fun to make. I'm sure it's not perfect, but I feel content that this gives a clear idea of just how much more Ganondorf could be in Smash Bros. Do you agree with this concept? Or do you have ideas for other changes you'd like even more? I do like dual-wielding Ganondorf. I would not say no to that. Let me know your ideas in the comments below. Now, it's been so long since I uploaded that I probably shouldn't waste any more time on this outro. I dodged a bullet this E3 when they didn't mention Pikmin. I gotta capitalize on that before a weird, surprise direct reveal happens. So I'll leave off with a very special thanks to my patrons. These lovely, generous individuals have been a wonderful help, giving feedback on these ideas, and just supporting me in general. I appreciate it. It may not seem like much, but it helps a lot. I hope the rest of you are also doing well. And with that, I bid you adieu. See you next time.